Welcome to another episode of Cold Water Carping, and in this episode I'm joined by all-round legend Jon Shoes Jones. He's going to be doing a little bit of a winter session where hopefully we can get a few bites. Now it hasn't started well, and the reason that it hasn't started well is the venue that we had chosen was a place that was up by Burton-on-Trent. When we arrived at the venue, it's a venue we didn't know, we'd never been to, but we'd been recommended as a really nice venue. We arrived there, and when I say it was really nice, it is absolutely stunning. About 40 acres, I would say, tree lines, snags, beautiful looking fish. It was an incredible looking place. However, during these episodes, we've talked quite a lot about choosing the right type of venue for winter fishing when you just want to try and get a few bites. Upon the first walk around the lake, it was felt that this wasn't the right venue. It's a beautiful venue, and I'm really wanting to go back there in the spring because it's got everything. It's got snags, it's got open water, it's got islands, it's just absolutely stunning. But we didn't feel after the first walk round that we'd have a good chance of getting bites out of it. So we did make the decision to do a second lap, look where the sun was shining, where it was shining on the water first, where potentially the fish would be. But after the second lap, we were still feeling a little bit like it would be a really big task when we'd only got 48 hours to try and catch a fish out of it. So we had a little chat and we decided to make a move, which didn't help us in any way because we'd already lost nearly half of the day. We've ended up at Meadow Fisheries Estate Lake. Now this is a lake that you can book on an exclusive. It's a lovely little lake of about 1.5 acres. There's a nice stock of fish in here. They're very pretty, reed lines, there's little islands, so there's plenty to go at. So we decided to make the journey here. Now this did add a bit of a timestamp because we didn't arrive at the lake till nearly 1:30 in the afternoon. And obviously at this time of year, you start running out of daylight very, very quickly. We did a quick lap of the lake, and while we were lapping the lake, we noticed two big silver bins. Now once opening the bins, we noticed he's got pellets in. Sure enough, 5-10 minutes later, the local farmer's walked round who says his wife pops down here every couple of days and puts a scoop of pellets in. So the decision was made to drop in these swims because obviously the fish are used to seeing a little bit of bait in these swims. Then the tactics were discussed and we decided on swims. I've ended up in this swim, which has got a lovely little reed line to my left, which this morning I managed to bag my first carp off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this rod back out, we're going to have a look at rigs, we're going to have a chat with Shoes, and hopefully we're going to catch a few more fish. There's nothing like a little underarm that just lands perfectly next to the reeds. I'd done a couple of underarms already with a blind lead, which gave me an idea of the distance, then I wrapped it up so I knew exactly where it was. But it's just nice, just an underarm flick to that area, less disturbance. I think it goes in with a nice plop, little bag of pellets around it, and hopefully we'll manage to bag another one off the same area. So the rod's back out, and there's the first fish of the session. Nice to get a bite when the temperatures are like this. It is freezing cold and this fish is absolutely Baltic, literally like holding a block of ice. But it's a bite at this time of year and that's what's important. And the change of venue definitely meant that we had a much better chance of getting bites. So I'll put the rod back along that reed line. Hopefully it's going to rattle off again. And one of these fishes, bigger brothers or sisters, may grace us with their presence. But for now, let's put this back, and then I'll talk you through the rig and the tactics I'm doing. Oh, steady, steady. Well then, fish returned, photos done, and the rod's back in position. So the session didn't start that great, with obviously turning up to a lake that wasn't ideal for this time of year. You know, it's going to be really difficult to try and get a bite out of there. And, you know, I'm more about trying to get a bite at this time of year. You know, it's not an easy time to be fishing at all, but you can be comfortable and bites can be had. So when I turned up to this lake after that little walk round, I mentioned that we found the pellets. So of course these fish are very used to pellets. So my approach was going to be a pellet approach instead of my normal winter approach, which is maggots. What I didn't want to do on this venue is, because it's quite small, the fish are always very aware that you're here. I didn't want to cause a lot of commotion, so I decided not to spod. What I wanted to do was just try and nick a few bites and just get a couple of fish under the belt, you know, just enjoy the session with Shoes. So I started off with 3 spots. You know, I'm doing very simple tactics, just small mesh bags of S7 pellet, fish with a little wafter that's pellet shaped. Because of the pellets on the bank and knowing that the fishery guys come down here and put a few in every now and again, I thought the fish are going to be very used to seeing a few pellets at this time of year. So my little dumbbell, I just topped it with a little sliver of half a pop-up corn. I didn't want to put a whole one on there. I didn't want to pick it up too much. Just want it to sit real nice on the bottom, and subsequently it's done me a fish. So I'm going to use that tactic. I'm going to have my middle rod roving around the lake, see if I can try and find an opportune fish. If I get a bite from that spot, then I know I can go back to the spot, potentially catch another one. A spot to the right is by where the bucket of pellet is. So what I'm doing is every, I don't know, 6 hours, something like that, I'll just get a handful of pellet, just sprinkle them out, because the fish will be very used to that sound of the pellets hitting the water, a bit like a match angler does with the pellet waggler, where they ping out pellets continuously. It's done me well in the past. It actually won me the British Championships with my partner doing that. We pinged pellets in the margin on Raisbury, and the fish would come and investigate the noise. So I'm going to try that to my right, and hopefully that can produce me a fish. But in a minute we're going to pop down to Shoes, we're going to look at our rigs, look at our tactics, and talk how they're a little bit different and how we approach it in winter. So I've just cast my middle rod, which is the rod that I'm going to use as a roving rod. It's about 65 yards, 70 yards over to the far margin. It's in what looked like a little bit of fizzing. It's difficult to see at this sort of range, but I've just cast it over there, and within about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I've had a liner straight away, so that's quite a positive. So while that rod's sitting there, we're going to pop down, have a little chat with Shoes, and talk to him about his winter tactics and see how they differ from mine.
Hey up, Bonesy. Got you a coffee here, mate.
Oh, you were good at it, your Shoes.
Oh, I'll try. I'll try.
Nice, cheers, mate. It's not the devil, are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm
Good. So let's have a little look at winter fishing then. And welcome as the first guest that we've had on cold water carping.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it was obviously a bit of a disaster yesterday for us in that first
Well,
lake,
apart from the little bit of a disaster, I mean, I'm full of cold and I'm coughing, so it's probably not the best time for me to get out carp fishing in the winter, but it's nice to be out.
Yeah, we've ended up on this lake, Meadow Fisheries, isn't it? This is the estate lake.
Yeah.
I didn't even know these lakes, and this lake's only about 10-15 minutes from my house.
Yeah, it's a nice little lake, isn't it? You know, it's got a few fish in it, nothing massive, but hopefully,
Bites,
anything
this time of year, it's
exactly.
bites, isn't it? It's about just getting bites, get a bite.
Anything at this time of year,
You know,
is
it's nice. I think we'd have struggled on that first lake, wouldn't we? The size of it and things like that.
Yeah, it's sometimes if you want to go onto a lake for the first time in the winter, you don't want to be picking a big lake where there's lots of places where those fish can hide.
I think
as soon as we'd started
casting, they'd have been gone, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely.
But
this is nice, small. Obviously, the fish. This had a lid on it a couple of 10 days ago.
Yeah, Gaz and I were actually down about 10 days ago to have a little look at it, and it was solid then.
Yeah. So the fish they're not very active, are they? Which is normal case in the winter.
Yeah. You've done quite a lot of winter fishing through the years, haven't you?
I used to love my winter fishing, mate. It was the best time of the year when I used to go. I mean, I used to have better results in the winter than I did in the summer.
Yeah.
But it's all about location. If you can get the location right and your baits are working, you can catch consistently, and it's more rewarding as well in the winter.
Yeah, it is. It's also quieter, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the banks are quieter. You know, people think that you can struggle, but you know, if you're comfortable, it's you're fine.
Oh, mate, with today's technology, with bivvies and sleeping bags and
Jackets,
clothing,
all this clothing,
as long as you're warm and dry, because the last thing you want to do is freezing cold
and, it's
and wet. You don't enjoy your fishing. You might as well go home.
Yeah.
Warm, dry. You've got plenty of food with you. It's a pleasure to be out on the bank then.
Yeah.
And if you catch one, it's even more rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. What have you done? I mean, we've done a little bit, and I've talked previously in the programme about what tactics I've bought here after seeing the lake and learning a little bit about it. What have you started doing?
Well, I mean, with the limited information I've had, it said it's a bit silty, so I've gone helicopter rigs. I've gone a little chod on one rod, a little helicopter rig on the other with a snowman, so it's just sitting above the silt.
Yeah.
And I've been, just fishing singles. There's a few bubbles been showing. The odd fish showed, and they seem to be very close.
Yeah.
So I'm underarm flicking them out. Maybe the noise that we're creating on here is not
a lot
the
of
best.
us walking up and down, isn't it? It's probably not helping us fishing in the margins here.
But they're not showing, are they? They're not rolling. They're not head and
Seeing the
shoulder.
odd little bit of fizz. I did put a rod. You probably saw me cast that rod that was a lot longer, probably about 65 yards, 70 yards over to that other margin, and within a few minutes I'd had a liner, so I'm wondering if our pressure over here has actually pushed them away.
So it's somewhere between your lead and your line entering the water, the fishes. So you could keep bringing it back, can't you?
Yeah, I'm going to keep trying. That one's my roving rod, so I'm going to keep moving. Obviously, I had one this morning from that reed line, but that reed line is we saw this morning the sun hit it, didn't it?
Yes, it does.
First place the sun hit in the morning,
yeah.
and it just says to you that could be the one part of the lake that's slightly warmer than the rest.
I mean, have you put any bait in?
No, nothing. I'm just fishing little mesh bags. After when we arrived and we looked in these bins as we were walking around and saw the pellets, then the farmer came around and said his wife puts a scoop in every day.
Yeah.
I just thought I'm just going to go with something that's pellet resemblance. So I've gone with a little brown wafter, a little bug wafter. Yeah. It looks like a pellet. Just topped it with half a sliver of pop-up corn just to keep it nice, bit of visual, and then just little mesh bags of pellets. So have you put bait in, or are you just?
I'm so tempted. I mean, I've got a nice smelly mix of stuff that. Again, this time of year, if you're going to put bait in, I think you don't have to put loads in, but try and make it high attractive. With the flavours or
you can't afford
colour.
to be spreading bait around at this time of year, can you? It's got to be dead accurate, which is why little mesh bags probably works, isn't it?
I'm so tempted later on to put a couple of small scoops in down here because it's quite deep off this dam.
The bin where they're throwing it, isn't it?
And stick a rig on that one to see what happens. But you never know. I mean, winter's all about, there's windows in the day, isn't there? You had that fish in the middle of the night, so maybe that is when they're going to be feeding.
Yeah. But it was what, about 5:30 this morning, 6 o'clock just before the sun. And by the time we got Gaz and that round, we were obviously by the time we filmed it.
Yeah.
So if that's bite time, then it's a good thing to know, isn't it? Get to know when the bite times are.
Yeah.
But it's nice, and it's nice to have you here, Shoes.
Yes,
nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much, mate. I mean, you did actually promise me earlier on.
A bit fizz in there, look.
You did promise me a bacon butty earlier on, though. I've made you a coffee.
I suppose I did, didn't I?
And hopefully you got some brown sauce as well.
Well, hopefully we're going to get some more fish. Until we do, I'll go and make a bacon sandwich.
Thank you very much, mate.
Conned, as always, into cooking. It's been a bit of a quiet day, unfortunately. Temperatures dropped right down. It's gone pretty chilly. Despite chasing like little bubblers around, I think that because me and Shoes are on the one side of the lake, where we're sort of chasing them a little bit, it's just pushing them further and further away from us. But I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a nighttime bite again. We had a bite in the night last night. We've been a lot more settled for the day. Shoes is out on his spots. I've got my little areas. So hopefully we'll get a bite through the night. But for now, I've prepared a nice meatball curry. and rice and naan breads for everyone. Don't know why I seem to do this for everybody. No one ever seems to cook for me on the bank, but I'm about to cook meatball curry for 4 people, and we'll hopefully have fish to show you in a little while. This has been a long time coming. We were just sat here thinking what we're going to do, and the rod that did the bite on the first night just give a little indication. I'm fishing tight to the reeds, so it was sort of a funny bite. We're finally into our second fish. Seen a bit of fizzing over the right hand rod, and we actually all thought that that rod was going to be the one to go, and out of nowhere the one tight to the reeds is gone. We're finally into our second fish. Nice, always nice to get a bite when it's cold. It's been really tough. We haven't really seen fish show, and talking to people that have been to the lake a few times said that they see quite a lot of shows from the fish, and we just haven't seen anything, no indication at all. And then out of the blue, you get a bite. And this hopefully could be our second carp from the from this estate lake. Looks like it could, with a nice little stocky fish. Bites a bite in this weather. Nearly fell off the platform. Expert landing there, Shoes. Thank you very much, sir. Nice to get a bite, kid. There we go. That'll do. Nice. So there we go, just landed that fish, and while I've landed that fish I was noticing the reeds are moving a little bit. So what I've done is I've unhooked the fish in the net. It's sat there just chilling. I'm going to get this rod straight back out against them reeds and hopefully be able to bag another one. What I did yesterday towards the evening is I just catapulted about 20 or 30 pellets around it, just so there was a little bit of bait there. Should some fish move in, they've got a reason to stay instead of just nicking that bite. So I'm just going to underarm this just to get the distance again, and hopefully we'll manage to bag another one. Here we go, fish number 2, coming from exactly the same spot that I had that fish yesterday morning. We're only a couple of hours after when I had that first bite, so maybe we're in a bit of a bite time at the minute. It's been quite difficult, we haven't seen the fish really show. Seen a little bit of fizzing to my right, which is to Shoes' left. Both got rods in that area, and we really thought one of those was going to go, and out of nowhere the reed line's produced another one. I've dispatched the rod straight back out there, exactly where the last one was, and hopefully it's going to go off again. But for now, let's put this little one back and just enjoy the fact that we've managed to get a bite in such awful conditions. Off she goes. Go on then, back you go. Go find your big brother or sister. Well then, Shoes.
Yes.
Didn't quite work out how we hoped it would, did it?
No, second morning, I was half expecting some bacon butties again, but
Hey, I've fed you twice.
yeah, lovely curry.
Yeah, it was nice.
Very quiet for the past 2 days. I were told the fish show themselves, but
Yeah,
they clearly haven't.
We haven't
while
seen
we've been
anything
here.
really. I think it was in one show this morning, didn't we?
Yeah,
Which is quite unusual. I mean, the lake's been defrosted, what, 3 days, something like that?
yeah.
You know, we weren't here, but we know it was frozen last week, so that probably hasn't helped at all. It's a shallow lake. A lot as that ice melts, obviously the cold water drops down to the bottom.
Well, this is the things you've got to consider when you're fishing in the winter. I mean, water temperature. I put the thermometer on it, and it was saying 4 degrees.
Yeah, it is cold. Isn't it?
So it's not brilliant. But we give it a go. I mean, we managed to catch one off that reed line because the sun picked up on there.
It's funny, isn't it? That is literally the only corner that gets sunshine. When that sun comes up in the morning, because of the forest behind it, literally hits that reed line. Just shows that location's the key, isn't it? It's defrosted. It's the only place that gets any sort of warmth. And I managed to get a couple of fish off there. You know, I did expect maybe a couple more, but you know, these fish don't seem to be very active at all. You know, there could be other factors, but more than anything, I think defrosting lake, you know, people need to take that into consideration when you're looking at fishing in the winter. You know, it isn't, you can be comfortable, but it is not easy fishing, but the rewards can be there.
Mate,
you know.
We could have come here and had 4 or 5 fish each.
That's right, yeah.
And this could have been a completely different story, but
I think if we come back again in maybe a couple of months' time and have a go, as it's in the spring, I think we could have a really nice little bag-up session.
I think we could have a to be continued.
Yeah,
come
possibly,
back, catch a few, and obviously it'd be a better session, wouldn't it? So. But well done on that little fish.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a bite, isn't it? And it's nice to get a bite this time of year, and the tactic works. So it was obviously location was the key, little bait, and it was away. You know, I did sprinkle about 20 pellets over it, which is why I was kind of hoping. Seeing a little bit of movement in the reeds, it could have been a coop, but I think it was fish. And I thought I might be able to nab another quick one, but we're coming to the end of the session now. But it's been nice. Been nice to get you down.
You're packed up. You've just got to reel your rods in. I'm already packed up, ready to go.
Yeah, I think it's time to head off. Thanks for coming, Shoes.
See you next time.
And thanks for watching another cold water carping.